guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad you stopped by today because today we are finally going to do another challenge. I know I'm really bad at keeping up with these and doing them consistently, but today we are going to be doing a fusion challenge. If you guys haven't seen any of my fusion challenges, basically I'm going to take a cup, I have a bunch of creatures in the cup, not actual creatures, basically the names of them, and I'm going to draw two of them and try to fuse them together into an art doll. So here is our cup. I've got all the names in it and we're going to shake it up a little bit and draw two of them. And I'm gonna put it all the way out here so I don't cheat. Okay, I got one. Let's see what we're gonna do. So our first creature is... Do you guys see it? A fish. Oh goodness, what are we gonna do with a fish? Okay, let's see what we're going to combine our fish with. Okay, that is not that bad actually. We're going to be combining a fish and a snake together. So basically kind of an eel. So I'm going to do my best to make that as fishy and snaky as I can. So let's get started. Okay, so what I think I'm going to do with this piece is I'm actually going to go really detailed and try and do something just off the wall. So I'm not going to go super simple and just like put fins on a snake or something like that. I'm going to pick a very detailed specific fish and we're going to snakeify it. I think that would be the funnest way to do this project. So one really cool fish that I think would be fun to snakeify would be a lionfish. There's a lot of markings and patterns, the fins are really crazy and stuff like that, so I think that would be a lot of fun to do. I'm not going to pick any specific snake, but I am going to focus on the patterns and stuff of a lionfish. So this is going to be one of those projects where I'm going to do things all out of order because of the way the body needs to be put together. So the first thing that we're going to actually work on is the sewing of the body and the fins. So I have my pattern, it's pretty much a stretched out lionfish, and we're going to use this to make our body. So I'm going to have to do a lot of painting, but I do want to have the texture of scales on it. So I'm going to end up using a sequence for the body. So I have my pattern all drawn out on a piece of back fabric, and we're going to sew our sequence to this. So I'm just going to follow all the lines of the pattern and sew these two pieces of fabric together. Once I have everything sewn together, I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut out the shape of our pattern. Then I'm going to fold our pattern in half. Because of the way I decided to lay the pattern on the fabric, the two pieces are connected, but not all the way. So I'm going to pin these together and continue sewing the side of the piece, that way it's connected all the way down to the tail. Now, until we put everything together, that's pretty much all the sewing for the main body. I will have to paint this stuff later. Okay, so the way that I want to do the fins is I want to have them made out of felt, but I also want to have all the little bony bits inside of them. So I'm going to start with one piece of felt that's already cut to the shape of our fin, and then I have pieces of wire cut to fit, and we're going to be gluing these into place. Then I'm going to take another piece of felt that's already cut to the same shape, and I'm going to glue that on top, and we're going to sandwich the wires in between the two layers of felt. I'm going to do this to all of the fins. We have a top fin, a tail fin, and then two side fins. I'm going to let my fins dry a little bit and then we're going to adjust the edges because some of them just didn't quite line up, so I'm going to clean them up. And then we're going to start painting them. So I'm going to be using my acrylic paints and I'm going to start by doing the undercolors. So I'm going to kind of switch the khaki colors over to maybe a darker color and then start adding some reds. While doing the painting, I did let certain layers dry before continuing, that way they wouldn't bleed into each other. So right now I'm just trying to get those dark red stripes in place, and then once that's dried, we're going to go over it again with our white and get those white stripes in place. And I'll be honest, the painting of this piece did take forever, especially the fins, because I had all the different lines to draw on. But after painting, drying over and over again, I finally got the fins finished. Now we're going to work on the head. The head is going to be the only clay piece this creature is going to have. So I'm going to start with a lump of tinfoil and we're going to get this completely covered. Now obviously this head isn't going to be very large, so we're going to have to do our best to get as much detail in it as we can. So right now I'm just trying to get the basic shape down for what I want the head to look like. I'm aiming more for the lionfish head than a snake head. And that's mainly because the head of a lionfish is just very interestingly shaped, and I really liked it and I didn't want to take any of the features of that out of the piece. So for shaping the head, I'm just taking strips of clay and lumps of clay and just adding it where I want the clay to be more lifted up, and then I'm just blending it together. So I have a few spikes on the top of the head that I need, and then I also want the area where the lips are to stand out as well. So a strip of clay is going to go across the face and we're going to blend that in. Once I have the basic shape of the head down, I'm going to roughly sketch out the shape of the mouth. So I'm just going to decide where it's going to go. I'm not going to do anything fancy or anything like that, just a rough sketch, and once I like the shape of it, I'm going to smooth it out and clean it up to make a nice smooth line. Now I don't want the head to look too much like an exact lionfish. I want to change it up a little bit, so I'm going to give it some nostrils and pit holes. So basically I'm just going to take some balls of clay and lay out where I want those to go, and then use my tools to push in to make a hole. Once I have those placed, I'm going to use my tools to clean everything up to make them nice and smooth. Now you're probably wondering why I haven't done the eyes yet, because normally those are the first thing that I end up doing. Well, that's because I'm going to be using color changing gems for these, and I can't bake these along with the face. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of the gems, I have it glued onto a wooden dowel, and I'm going to stamp where I want the eye to go. That way I have a way of pulling it back up and leaving a mark where the eye is going to go. So the gems are going to stay off of the face, and then once everything is completely done, I think we'll even paint it first, then we can glue the gems into place where the eyes are going to go. This technique actually works really well with fish because we don't have to worry about the eyelids or anything. So I'm just going to lay out where the eyes are going to go. I'm going to stamp both of them, make sure they're as even as I can, and then we're going to move on to adding some more texture to the face. So I'm going to add some scale texture to the lips, just use some line work to break it up, and then I'm also going to use a dotting tool to add some texture to the rest of the face. Once I like the look of the face, I'm going to put this in the oven for probably about 45 minutes at the 275 Fahrenheit mark. And then once it's out of the oven and is cooled, we can start painting it and putting everything together. We're going to have to do that differently as well. And what I mean by that is we're basically just going to primer the face before we put it together. The rest of the painting is going to be painted the same time we paint the rest of the details on the body. And the reason for that is I'm trying to make a seamless transition from clay to fabric. And I'm just kind of trying something out with this piece to see if I can do it. So basically the first bit of primer that we're going to do is we're going to add a khaki color to the whole face. I'm going to completely let that dry, and then I'm going to go over the top of the head with a more burgundy color. And then I'm going to be taking those same colors and I'm going to start painting the fabric for the body. I'm going to lay out some of the stripes and just add the red to it. Now with painting this fabric, I need to remember that the very middle is going to be the belly of the creature and the sides are going to be the very top. So if I want to add a specific color to the top, I need to do that to the sides of the fabric. So I'm not really adding a ton of detail to the fabric yet, just laying out the basic stripes. I'm going to let that dry, and then we're going to start putting everything together. So first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our head, and I have a piece of wire. This is just a simple straight wire that's going to run through the whole length of the body, and I'm going to glue it into the back of the head. Then I'm going to start taking the fabric for the body and I'm going to glue it around the base of the head. Now, like a lot of times when I make my creature, I didn't make the pattern to fit the clay head, so I do need to fill the gap where it doesn't connect. So I'm just going to take a piece of fabric that's going to fill that, and I'm going to make a triangle with it. So I did measure this to make sure it fits the gap, and I'm just going to glue it to the very top of the head. And then while that's drying, I'm going to take the tail fin and we're going to glue that into place. So I'm going to glue it to the end of the wire that we have connected to the head, and then I'm going to take the fabric for the very end of the body and I'm going to glue it around the base of the fin. We're going to let all of that dry, and then what we're going to do is we're going to stuff and close up the body. Now, since we do have a fin that runs down the back of the creature, the easiest way to have this sewn into place is to sew it into place while we're closing up the body. So I'm basically just going to be closing up the body and sewing this in between the 2 layers of fabric. Once the body is stuffed and closed up, we can start painting more of the details on it. So I'm going to add the extra fins to this after we get all the patterns marked out on the body. And the main reason for that is I don't want the side fins to get in the way, and I don't want to bump them. So I'm going to start adding some more burgundies, and I'm going to blend the face into the fabric, and I'm going to start darkening up the body. And then the sides I do want to be a little bit lighter and kind of more on the pink side, so I'm adding a little bit of white to the burgundy that I'm using to paint. So I'm just going to go over the sides a little bit to brighten them up. The whole time I'm doing this, I'm doing my best to not cover up those red stripes that we have, because those are going to mark out where the white ones are going to go. Once I'm happy with the undercolors of the body, I'm going to start taking my white and I'm going to paint on all those stripes. So I'm going to go all the way down the body on both sides and all the way around. So this was very time consuming, and I had to take my time with it because I didn't want to bump anything. So there was points where I had to stop, let it dry, and then continue. And then once I had all the white stripes painted on the body, I worked my way up the face. So I just started adding more stripes to the very front of the face. After I got all the white stripes into place and they were dried, I decided I wanted to brighten up some specific areas where the red is. So I'm going to take a brighter red and just kind of lightly go over it to make it brighten up a bit. And then after that, I'm going to let the rest of the body completely dry, and then we can start sewing our fins into place. So I'm going to start with those little decorative pieces, and I'm going to sew those into place, and then I'm going to take the larger ones and sew those onto the side. I decided I wanted them to be a little bit further back instead of closer to the face, because I figured it would help make it look a bit more snake-like to have them further back. So I got all of those sewn into place, and then what I need to do is I need to cover up where the main fins are connected to the body, because it's not a very nice transition. So I'm going to take a little bit of our sequence fabric and I'm going to glue it over that one spot on both sides. We're going to let that dry, and then I'm going to paint over that to blend everything together. And then after I had everything put together, I did mix up a little bit of resin to go over the front of the face. So because that is clay, I was worried about chipping and paint peeling, so I did go over that, but I did do my best to blend the resin into the fabric as well. So I feel like you don't really see the transition from clay to fabric, and it looks really seamless. So I did that, I let it cure overnight, and then I took my E6000 and I glued the eyes into place and let those dry as well.
Okay guys, and that is the creature we made with our fusion challenge. I had so much fun, especially diving in and picking more detailed creatures to work with. At first I was kind of worried about getting the fish and snake because I kind of couldn't think of how to combine those two without it looking really dopey. But in the end, I loved how he came out. It's really encouraged me to just dive in a little bit more with these challenge projects and just add a little bit more detail to them. So maybe next time around we'll do something a little bit weirder than this one. I don't know if we can get weirder than this one, but we're gonna try. Anyways, I'm gonna have our fishy friend in my Etsy shop, so if you guys want to buy him, make sure to check the links down below. I also have a bunch of sales going on as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!